Alrighty, so today's September 26th. My name is Osmin Hernandez, and if you could just start off with stating your name, date of birth, and your occupation.
Okay. Domingo Villegas, and I was born in August 26, 1940, in Brady, Texas.
Okay. Alrighty. It says on here that you were a barber. Are you still doing that?
Yes, I'm still doing it part-time.
Okay. All right. And let's see here. And where did start off here? Well, where did your family live before coming to the U.S., or were they already here?
Well, my father, he was born and raised in Mexico.
Okay.
And he came to the United States whenever he was 14 years old.
Okay.
And my mother, she was born in my hometown of Brady, which is in central Texas. And my grandparents, they all came from Mexico. They fled Mexico because of the revolution. My great-grandfather was a foreman or a senior foreman on a hacienda, and Pancho Villa at that time was killing people with positions like that, So they feared for that, and they fled to the United States. When they came to the United States, they settled around Brady, McCulloch County, which is Brady is the county seat for McCulloch County, and they worked. My great-grandfather and my grandfather and my dad, they worked for the railroad for a short time, and then they got into farming. They were farmers, and they shared crop, and their prime crops was basically cotton. Cotton was the main source of crops that they raised, and they raised corn, maize, and wheat, and a few dairy cows and pigs, and chickens and turkeys. My grandfather, he farmed with horses because he didn't know how to drive a tractor. And my dad, he would work the fields with a tractor. And they lived on a farm 3 miles out of Brady. And my daddy, he was a farmer for 45 years until he retired at 65. And he moved to the town. He had bought some real estate and moved to town, and that's where they retired and died. My grandparents passed away before they left the farm, and they were successful in farming. They were very independent. The owner of the ranch, the farm, he would let them do whatever they wanted, just like it was their own farm. They would plant, harvest, whatever they wanted. And that's basically the part of my dad and my grandfather's, what they did for a living.
And let's see here. So we got that covered. Now, as far as let's see here, the neighborhood that you grew up at, was it in Brady, or was it?
The neighborhood which was not really what you call neighborhoods in the city.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they're farms,
Yeah.
and they're half a mile apart,
Mm-hmm.
a mile apart. And my closest neighbors was about a mile and a half away from on a ranch,
Okay.
and they were white. You know, all the neighbors were basically white. Yeah.
And how were those relations with them during that time period when you were growing up?
They were friendly. You know, they were. I mean, they didn't have nothing to complain about us being neighbors or them, you know, being our neighbors. You know, we respected each other as neighbors, but it wasn't a thing that you associated with them too much, because they were into ranching. They were not farmers, they were ranchers.
Mm-hmm.
And we had other neighbors that were more into ranching, to farming, that we would relate with them. My dad would relate with them more because of harvest time. They would communicate more, you know. But you really don't say that you're like a neighbor that you sometimes talk a couple of times a day. You see him out there in the yard. It's nothing like that, you know. Everybody kind of works their own thing unless they need something that they go to you, or you go to them, you know. We saw our neighbors, like a neighbor that was 2 miles away that had a dairy, and we would take our cows, you know, for breeding purposes. You know, my daddy didn't want to keep a bull for that purpose, so we use a neighbor like that for service of, and that sort of thing. Sometimes a neighbor would need for you to help him do some plowing or something like that. You'd share some things of that sort.
And this was so you grew up in Brady, and when did you move to Fort Worth?
I moved to Fort Worth in 1961, okay. And I came to Fort Worth to go to barber school. Okay. In school, my grades were very poor because we were taken out of the school to harvest the crops, pick cotton, and sometimes we were allowed, you know, like 3 months. The first 3 months of the school year, we might go. Occasionally, when it rained, you know, you couldn't work the fields. Would you go to school? So you were behind, you know. So the grades were poor. You know, some things you never could catch up, you know. And they didn't have no tutors or nothing my parents were illiterate to the point that to teach us, you know. So we got behind, and I graduated from high school, and my barber that I went to, he asked me what I was going to do when I got out of high school. I said, well, I don't know. I'm just going to go to work, you know, find a job, you know, there in the town. And he was the one that really put an ideal in my mind to go to barber school, to become a barber, to come and work for him. So being raised on a farm, being out in the weather, hot, cold, you know, you were in the environments all the time. I thought, well, this is ideal. This is an indoor job, 72 degrees year-round, and clean. So that's what inspired me to go to barber school. So I went to barber school, got my license, and I was hired from barber school. A barber with a shop hired me to go work for him right out of barber school. He came to the barber school, and he asked instructor, who we would recommend of the students that were fixing to finish, and he recommended me, so I got the job, and I worked for him for a short time, and it wasn't financial-wise, it wasn't worth it to me. I couldn't stay there I couldn't make a living, so I decided to do what my barber back home wanted me to do, to go to barber school and come to work for him. So I did. I went back, and I only worked for him for a month, and I had made a lot of friends, girlfriends and friends here in Fort Worth, and I had gotten used to city life. So he took off for a whole month. When I got there, he took off for 30 minutes of vacation, just left me with a barber shop. And of course, everybody knew me that came to the shop, and I knew them, and they felt like I was better than the barber that had been cutting their hair because I had gone to school. Well, that wasn't true. He had a lot of experience, and he was very, very good. So I felt like I would have probably made it there, but I was single. I felt like I liked the city life, so I moved back, and I worked in another shop in the south part of town, and on and off I worked for him 3.5 years, but I got another job because it was the same way. I couldn't make a living full time. But after I had been with him for about 3.5 years part time, I decided that I needed to get back to barbering full time. So the state requires you to do an apprenticeship for 18 months to qualify for a master license. You have to have a master license to own a barbershop. So I thought, well, I'm going to do that. I'm going to get the qualifications to the time. You had to get the time, 18 months. So at the time I had gotten married, and I couldn't do what I had done working at these shops because I couldn't make a living. So I came up with this idea. I said, I can go work at the base, and the business is there, the business there. So I went to work at the base, and I was running the shop, the hospital barber shop there at the base, and I wasn't really doing military cuts. Most of the people that come there were retired Air Force people or military people that come to see the doctors for appointments, and they had privilege to the barbershop. So I was getting, which were really civilians, and the staff, hospital staff, the doctors of those, were military doctors and nurses, male staff. And I wasn't really dealing to what the barbers were on the base, military cuts, peel them and all that. It was totally different. I had a totally different. But I put in my 18 months. I qualified for applying for a master license. I got my master license, and I bought this shop where I'm at. I've been there for 47 years, and I have only had one landlord until less than a year ago. They died, and their son has taken over. So I'm 75 years old, and I really don't think I'm going to make it to 50 in that location. At times, I would like, get a little publicity out of it, being there 50 years on the boulevard. Yeah. But I'm working half days, and I'm really supposed to work a little longer than that, but since I'm the boss, I take off whenever I feel like. But definitely, I'm working mornings, and I've done well. My staff of barbers, it's a 2-chair shop. With my experience, I have had barbers that all of them have owned barbershops. All the barbers that were older than me that came to work for me. 2 of them stayed with me 15 years. They retired because of health reason or wife, they had to take care of their wife. And I had one that was with me for 22 years, and he had health issues, and he had to retire. They were all kind of forced to retire. You know, they had owned their own shops, but they came back to barbering, and I've had younger barbers, and right now I've got a younger barber that basically he runs the shop for me now. You know.
Now, where's the barbershop located at?
It's on Cambui Boulevard.
Cambui?
Yeah.
Okay, we're at on Cambui. I'm trying to...
It's 4721 Cambui. We're off of Hewlin.
Okay.
We're next to the original restaurant there on Cambui. Yeah.
All right. I'm just trying to picture her. You've been there for almost 50 years.
Yeah.
So, wow. So how much has that area changed since you've been there?
Well, we'll start off with the shopping center that I'm at. At one point, the owner he was a Zenith franchise dealer. He had sales and service, and he had his business there. And then I had 3 galleries and the restaurant. The restaurant at one time was it was very small. They had a couple of spaces, at the end of the shopping center. But with time, galleries closed up and sold out, and they closed them up, and the restaurant continued to absorb the spaces, and they have taken over basically all of it, but my space, the only one that they don't have. But at the end of the shopping center, it was used to be like a Dairy Queen. They tore down that to make a parking lot. When I bought the shop in 1968, there was a lot of barbershop. Barbering was very competitive because you didn't have pro cuts, super cuts, and you didn't have any of that. Yeah. It was all barbershops. Yeah. 2, 3 barber, 4 chair barbershops, and that's what it used to be, Yeah. And from University to drive to 30 on Cambui, there was probably at least 6 or 7 barbershops, and now it's just me and 7th Street, and of course the other ones they're kind of off Cambui. So I have gotten a lot of business because of the closure of barbershops and that. But at the beginning, this space has always been a barbershop. There used to be a barber and a wife. She was a beautician, he was a barber. They had spaces next to each other, and they got old and they sold out, and the beauty shop was closed. And so when I bought this barbershop, it was closed. It wasn't closed. Someone had bought it and remodeled it, but the guy was a state inspector for the state, and he couldn't do what he wanted to do, so he decided to sell it, and that's when I bought it. But it was a struggle at the beginning to start out the business because there was hardly no business. The guy that had it had a barber freshly out of school, and he didn't have experience, so he'd get customers and they didn't like his work. He didn't do the work, satisfactory work that they were pleased, so they wouldn't come back. So he was struggling to get it going. So that's why the owner decided to sell it, and that's when I bought it. So the same thing happened with me. I didn't have no following. It was a struggle to get started. But one of the setbacks that also hurt me, being Hispanic, there was a lot of prejudice. Okay. A lot of prejudice. And there was a lot of people that come to the barbershop. They were just they liked the location, but once I saw that I was Hispanic, they leave. So that was a big setback for me trying to. But the longer that I stayed there, the more I got to be known. Some of these people that I remember leaving, their neighbor was coming to me, and they weren't prejudiced. They was coming to me, and they tell them, that they were pleased with my work, and they would come. Eventually, they would come. All these people that were prejudiced, And today, it's totally different. Totally different. Nothing like that.
And what's the name of the business again?
What's the name of the business?
Yep.
Camp Bowie Barbershop.
Camp Bowie Barbershop, okay. All right. And it's been the same name for...
Yes, when I bought the shop, the guy had named it Camp Bowie Barbershop, and he told me, he said, the reason that I named it Camp Bowie Barbershop, because sometimes somebody will ask you, where are you located, and you don't have cards. And Camp Bowie, you tell them Camp Bowie, it's the main thoroughfare. You can look it up in the yellow pages. Back then we had the yellow pages, so you can look it up. Camp Bowie Barbershop, Camp Bowie, it's a boulevard, it's Camp Bowie Bar. So that made it easy for people to remember that the barbershop is named after the boulevard. Yeah. And that's the reason I kept it.
Now, during that time when you started running your own business, that was in the late 60s, early 70s?
Yeah, well, it's been from then until now, Okay. Like I said, I still have control of the shop, and the reason that I haven't sold, I've had a lot of opportunities that people wanted to buy it from me. Even the restaurants wanted to buy it from me. But, at this point, I'm not ready to retire, and I don't want to lose my privilege of doing what I want. If I work for somebody, I'll have to work the hours that they want me to work. And this way, I'll work when I feel like it. I don't have that pressure.
Now, during that time period, were you like the 60s, 70s? Were you involved in any political or social political organizations?
Well, most of my life, I have kept a low profile. Growing up, my dad's family of Catholics, they were very involved with the church, and my daddy, he was one of those type of person in the community. He was very respected, for type of person. But at the church, men just didn't like to volunteer to be ushers, pick up a collection and stuff like that. So my daddy, he was kind of a one-on-one. And after years and years, he finally realized, he said, nobody's trying to volunteer to help, But at that time, also people thought that like he owned the church, because he was always doing this, and he didn't like that. He didn't like being characterized as that type of person. So but he was doing it because nobody else was doing it, and he got me involved in the Holy Name Society through the church, and I was a treasurer in the society, and I was young, very young, at the time, with all old church members, and eventually he kind of became a leader to start getting more men involved in helping, with the church, and getting them involved in societies, Holy Name Society. You know, he encouraged me, and you know, he kind of had an influential voice, kind of power voice that, you know, people would respect him, and you know, he had to do sometimes a little pushing to encourage them to do it, and he motivated people to get involved, you know, and I saw all that, and I felt like I didn't want to be in that position, you know.
Yeah.
But because I've had in my lifetime, I've had that they always try to make me a leader, make me in charge, you know. I said, I don't want to do that. I just want to serve, you know. And right now I'm in that position with my church, you know, that I've had that, you know, I just want to be of service, but not a leader, you know. And I have been a leadership in things to a certain point, but I have had to twist an arm to resign because nobody ever wants the job, you know. But that's just my in my mind that I've had that, and I see that in my son. He likes to be a leader.
Just going back to you know, the area where you had your shop and everything, and on that part of Fort Worth, which would be west central kind of Fort Worth. Now, how was that like? I'm thinking that was a really heavily Anglo community back in the 60s and 70s.
Yeah.
So can you just discuss a little bit about your interactions there? You know, just were you the only you know, Hispanic around that whole area, or were there many other?
Well, in that area, I was only Hispanic owner in that sector of Camp Bowie. Mm-hmm. You know, I got friends that own shops kind of on the ends of downtown or further west, you know. But I was involved with the Barbers Association, you know, and like I said, I always try to keep a low profile, because if I would have gotten involved to the point that I would have held some office, you know.
Yeah.
But I never wanted to get to that point, you know. And that has always been the thing that I've done, you know. I just don't want to be in a leadership responsibility type thing. I just want to, you know, just to serve, to help.
Now, was that Barber Association, was that just for exclusive for? Was it like just anybody from different ethnic backgrounds?
Yeah, it was all ethnic backgrounds. Yeah,
all backgrounds,
yeah,
okay.
yes,
Okay.
Even though the blacks, they really didn't. They were separate, you know, because of at the time of the prejudices and all that, you know. Now it's probably different, you know, but there's a difference in the work of barbering. It's two classes of hair, you know.
Yeah.
You know, the black people have, you know, the type of hair, and Mexicans and whites, you know, we got the more similar type of hair, you know. So they kind of cater to their own association type thing, you know, because we had an experience where our association had competitions, barber competitions, and you know, Hispanics and whites. You know, we'd all compete together. Well, they decided that, hey, we need to get the black barbers to compete, you know, join us. So they got them, you know, they got barbers that were very successful in their business to join us in competitions. So they came to the competitions, competed, Well, the judges were either Hispanics or they were whites. No blacks. Yeah. But this was the first time that they've ever done it. The judges, they didn't know how to judge black hair. I mean, they were doing what they do with straight hair, you know, and that's not the way you judge those hair. I mean, so there was a problem. There was a problem there. Eventually, the next time we had another competition, they made sure that they had black judges so they could judge black hair. And that's the reason that there was a separation of the two.
Now, were there any other professional organizations that you were involved besides the Barber Association?
The Barber Association.
Yeah.
That's about it. Like I said, you know, I've had the opportunity to join the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce and all that, you know. But like I said, I have always kept a low profile in my life, you know. Okay. I've been, you know, successful in my business, and I feel like I didn't want to get involved for that reason. Like I said, and you know, just, and I'm proud of my son because you know he's the opposite. Yeah. Yeah, he gets involved.
Let's see here. So, as far as any leaders within the community that you looked up to or that you worked with, do you have any?
Well, not really. Like I said, I've always kind of absorbed people and what they do to succeed, you know, and whatever they do. And I kind of have always kind of done kind of my own thing to feel like I'm still accomplishing success with what I do. Like I said, when I was involved with the association, you know, we kind of try to learn from each other type of thing. But other than the church, you know, that I kind of got railroaded to doing things that in kind of leadership positions that there were things that I felt very uncomfortable because I really didn't want to do it because I just don't like that leadership, you know, that telling people and I've always had that feeling that they're always trying to make me the leader, you know, and I've always tried to not to be the leader. And in my business, you know, I've kept my business on a small scale for that reason because I didn't want to have a lot of employees and headaches and stuff like that, you know. So I just minimized it to myself and another barber, and it makes it a lot more simple, you know, to operate and not have headaches, you know, with people. But I do admire, you know, especially when you're seeing more young people that are getting educated, you know, and playing roles, in, not only in politics, but, you know, business, you know, leadership in business that which is good to see, especially in the Hispanic end of it. And you know, I'm proud of my kids. My kids, you know, my son went to Notre Dame, and my daughter went to Boston College, and they were able to get scholarships. You know, we were very involved in their growing up to get them on track as far as education, get an education. You know, I did a little bit of real estate, and I would work with my son would work with me. You know, I mean, we would dig ditches, put roofs. I mean, hot weather, cold weather, and I would always emphasize, if you don't get an education, this is what you're going to be doing, you know. I was telling them. So.
And now, as far as the church, just wanted to get the location. Which is the one that you're involved with, or which one? What location? Or
It's an Immaculate Heart of Mary. It's in South Fort Worth. We have a new church that we had it built about 19 years ago.
Okay. Well, that's pretty much that kind of wraps up everything that we had as far as the questions there.
Well, you know, and I was looking at that page of the siblings, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, we were 13 in the family.
Okay.
And all I did was put their first name because, you know, they're married and and they lived everywhere, and I don't have all those addresses in my mind. 13 or 12 of them, you know.
That's fine. No, I'll make a note of that on here.
That's the reason I didn't put anything as far as addresses, but we are 13, and
Okay.
and that was something that my parents also emphasized, education, you know, and that's what I saw, that the Hispanics that went to school where I went, when they got up to the 7th grade, they'd quit. You know, especially the boys would quit. When I was in high school, I was the only Hispanic in high school because all the boys had quit school in 7th, 8th grade. And there was a lot of that happening back then.
Yeah.
And that was because they worked the fields too, and they got behind in school, and you know, he failed.
Yeah.
But my daddy, you know, he wouldn't see that quitting, you know, quit school.
Yeah. And this is back in the 50s?
That was in the 50s.
50s, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, 50s, all in the 50s. And out of 13, I got only one sister that's got a college degree. And she got that, she got a scholarship to that. That's the reason.
Well, I think, yeah, that's pretty much, it's really, you know, not that long as far as the content and everything, but let's see here. Yeah, that's all we had for you today, and you know, feel free. We're gonna have another event in October 17th, and it looks like you brought pictures.
Yeah.
Now, as far as the pictures, we did have a archivist downstairs, but I think she might have left already. It's because the event went till 2. She could have kind of helped you out with as far as kind of digitizing those pictures or whatever you wanted to do, because the city of Fort Worth. What they're doing is they're making a Latino American historical archive at the library downtown.
Mm-hmm.
So they're making an archive just for our community here. So I think it's really cool that, you know, if you wanted to, you know, if you were interested in doing that, that's something that you might want to take the pictures to, or just because she was the one that's going to be, you know, handling all that, and I was going to be doing the interview part here. But,
Yeah.
But I mean, I would love to hear about the pictures and everything. But yeah, definitely look into. I mean, especially with the pictures and everything, I think that's.
Yeah, well, that's one thing that I saw on this interview. You know, that the farm, to me, it seems like it's like it could be laid out a little better. You know,
Yeah.
And that's one thing. Once a person accepts doing this, well, you know, you could bring. I was asking this lady over there. As a matter of fact, she goes to my church. I was asking her how to spell my grandmother's name, because you know, she's deceased and I didn't know how to spell her name. So she told me how to spell it, you know, and stuff like that. If you had kind of a worksheet that you could get bring it with you to with addresses and all that, it would be. But you give me that sheet, and when I got 12 siblings that I don't know their addresses.
No, yeah, yeah, and yeah, I mean this should suffice everything that we needed.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
but yeah, thank you for your time.
Okay,
and,
I'm glad to do it.
I might stop by your
Well,
shop and check it out.
Yeah, do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, do it.
But I'm gonna fill this out here, and this is actually for you. I think that's what they did. Yeah, we should be good.